It's finally time to play the Great Ace Attorney 2, and this stream doesn't have a title. Oh crap. Um, um, boom. Yeah, change title. Uh, okay, there we go. Perfect. Ah. Let's make sure the stream's all working. Looks like it is. Okay, so how do I do this? If I click continue... Oh, that goes to the escapades. This is what I do. Ooh, music. It's the English court in the background. I'm not sure whether I should come out and well, I'm definitely not going to say the spoiler for this game that I've seen, or rather read. What I'll have to do is check my final stream of DGS1, or the Great Ace Attorney 1 rather, or rather the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Sorry. I shall check that last stream and see if I figured out part of what I've accidentally found out about. But yeah, we'll get to that later. Anyway, here we go! Back to Her Majesty's glorious British Empire. Or maybe we're in Japan first. I've also seen that there is another lawyer, but I'm not sure about anything about it at all. Alright, I'll shut up. Oh.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean, those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted
Ryunosuke's dead?
what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful... Wait, what? Oh my god, just help Brett again.
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
Oh, she's
So
there?
please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was about to say, is Ryunosuke dead? Oh, okay. The Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. Okay. That alone has already got me thinking. I think I am going to have to say part of it, right? One of the biggest... Well, there was a few big cliffhangers at the end of the first game, right? We had the Van Zykes, his friend, whoever that is, and we had the government secret message that Iris decoded, right? And we know that the government secret message was in Japanese and it had 4 names on it. Kazuma, who died. It had Tobias Gregson. It had, what was his name? The dude who, Dr. Wilson. Wait, no. Yes, it did have Dr. John H. Wilson on it, yes. He's died. And then Aishin. So 2 of them are dead and 2 of them are alive. I think that the murder of John H. Wilson was more significant to the plot, but we never figured out how or why, right? Because her motive was never explained. But the fact that the name of the victim is on that list, the only thing that makes sense is that it was a planned, premeditated killing. So what I'm thinking is, whoever told her to do it, because she has no motive herself, whoever told her to do it has now ordered her to be eliminated. Okay. Okay, I've got to figure out how to turn Susate's voice into not such a mess if I'm going to do this protagonist's voice. Here I am again. No. Susato Mikotoba, here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Hey, Dad. What voice did I give this guy? Boy. Ah, good you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, no. I keep going to give people the Ryunosuke voice. Oh, yes. Good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You're a fine figure, Counsel. But you look as white as a sheet, and those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Goodness. Not the sort of thing that a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Yujin Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yumai University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me. Client? Oh. Would I be correct in thinking that you're going to be my lawyer in court today? Hmm? Oh, yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, this whole thing. Rei Membani. What the fuck? Rei Membami. Born the same year as I, and my greatest friend. So another best friend to start with. Okay. We have no court record yet. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the university research laboratory, helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling all right? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, it's just that... You look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? When I fall into your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. Ah! Bah! It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Susato? I'm so sorry, I didn't say something sooner, right? It's just that... No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look, for all the world, just like a student of the Imperial U. You're my university, a male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... It was the only way. The only way we'd be able to permit it to... The only way... The only way that she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take her defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated after having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Right. It's so strange though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Right. Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just... You really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. Wow! You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I'm pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. I'm gonna have to do Susato doing a fake male voice, aren't I? Right. You're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, and how you're trembling ever so slightly. I wonder if there will be any more, investigation-only episodes, or, weirdness. Breaking the normal format of investigation, trial, right? Because not a single case last time had a Tekken day. Obviously this won't. Surely not. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that alright? Yes it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side, because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato. Defendant, counsel. Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once. No. You should go in at once, right? If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! Don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Susato, you've said... No. This guy's voice, I don't know why I struggle with it so much. I want to do, like, adult, like, deep voice male, but Susato's tinge. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm writing assuming that her eye doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. Is it true, the reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? You should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. All right. He teaches... English? So, medical science. So that Rai must be a medical student. I'm Susato Mikotowa, judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. Yeah, because that was your father was ill. Oh! Oh yeah, because I enabled his new coat. How many times that I have wished that he was here, I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Can I change the costumes from... No, I can't. Why is it reversed? Why are we on the right-hand side of the courtroom rather than the left?
The court is now in session for the trial of Rai Membani.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. So he's standing on the left-hand side of the... So instead of looking from the witness stand side of the courtroom, we're looking from the judge's side of the courtroom. Right, pretending to be a man.
Defense counsel, are you ready?
Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready? Ready.
Ah, yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Is that correct?
Sorry.
Yes, I had come up with a suitable male... Oh, yes, I had come up with a suitable male name for you on for this little venture. So I am afraid I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, Council. Well, Council.
Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I'm Ryutaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan.
Ah! It seems Ryutaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen.
Naruhodo. No, Naruhodo. A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be?
You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain, as part of a study program. This is,
His cousin? No, his cousin?
That's right. Ryutaro here has been studying in the provinces, but he was called to the capital for his trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers.
Any of them? Ta-ta-ta, what a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused had to call in a country boy. How dare you? Susato is... No. Is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her. Huh? Oh, Please be careful, Rai. What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit.
The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet, for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now, this same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, Counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions?
Alright, it's time to prove myself. Yes, Your Excellency. Please, do make them simple.
Very well, to start with, you will state the name of the victim.
Phew, that is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. Aha.
What's the matter?
Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are want to blank.
It's not surprising, no, it's not surprising, really. It is your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances.
Oh dear, this is a dismal failure.
Don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record.
That's right. Just press E to open the court record. Then you'll flip to the people section with E. And don't take too long over it. Don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely.
Alright, check the court record with E. That's where the information I need will be. August, 2 p.m. Okay. Ascertained by examination and witness statements. Yeah. Extreme meiosis was observed in the victim in both eyes. Giselle Bratt was like a weird, like, poison expert, so... Interesting. Happens to be my father.
I'm waiting, Counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case?
There's an achievement for getting this wrong, I think. The victim in this case is, yes, Prosecutor Takatsuchi.
What?
Why the sudden triumphant cry of yes? Are you threatening to kill me? He seems angry.
You're surprised. Did you consult the court record? Must look through it carefully.
Oh yes, I did, of course. I looked at everyone on file, and I chose the person whose features appeared to be the most deathly.
I must say, this most unusual methodology of yours leaves me almost speechless. It occurs to me with renewed certainty that reading the information carefully is vitally important. I strongly recommend it.
Oh dear, I simply can't ignore that imploring look. Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer.
Very well, I will excuse this incorrect response given in your wide-eyed state of panic. What is the name of the victim in the case?
The victim in this case is none other than Professor Yujin Mikotoba.
What? Well, to be written off by one's own child.
Father, you seem suddenly so much older, wearier than you were moments ago.
Because of you, clearly. The judge is asking for the victim's name, the person who was killed in this case. Look through the information in the court record again, carefully, before you kill me, for mercy's sake.
Oh dear, I simply cannot ignore that disapproving look. Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer.
Very well, I will excuse this.
Yes!
Yes! The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Bratt. Giselle Bratt.
A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why then is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously,
No.
Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record.
Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett, behind the woman student persona, was the face of Queen Victoria. Brilliant. That's just too funny. I have to see what happens. Queen Victoria, obviously.
Obviously not.
Queen of England, studying overseas.
I thought
I thought it sounded a little odd.
Leave me out of this. I'm sure you know all the details of the case in question from 9 months ago.
Oh yes, how could I forget? I know every last detail about it.
And what on earth was that absurd answer you just gave? No more absurdity, please, Counsel. You will amend your answer.
Yes, of course, Your Excellency. They both have to call my answer absurd.
Yes!
Yes. 9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Humai University was killed. And the culprit was Giselle Brett.
Yes, she was a killer. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. And it was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikoku. Yes, I am indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter of the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Humai University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China, instead. Why Shanghai?
There's a British consular court there. No, there's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship.
And yet, the very day before her departure, and the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before! Only the day before!
That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant.
Oh! Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle.
Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Aleks.
As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th of August, in broad daylight. Same year as last time. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, as a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. Why am I giving him an American accent? I can't help it. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Membani. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. Yeah. Why was she wearing her fancy clothes on the beach? Powerful motive. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about... I can't not. Membani-san? Yes, what is it, Susa? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Rutaro Susato. Please tell the court exactly why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life. No. Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited. The British authorities in Shanghai, and the accused would never have had an opportunity to dispatch her again. Yeah, why is it backwards? There must be a reason the courtroom's backwards. Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. Cha-ha-ha.
The prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now, at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let him goad you.
Oh dear, this is really terrifying. But Father's right, we need more information. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about... if I may, Prosecutor Ouchie. What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. Ha! My apologies. Clearly, my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind.
bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skins. No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal be relaxing by the sea? For old times' sake, I believe. Sorry? Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
We're gonna have the ambassador come in.
But on what grounds would we agree to such a request?
Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, murder took place. I said don't look at me. It was that young student girl who did it, not I. No one has proved that yet.
I'm gonna close my window. I hear people outside.
I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to.
At this stage, I need to gather more information, I think. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about... You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. Tut tut tut. Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand? I beg your pardon. No matter, let us put this to the accused, shall we? Mbani-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yumai University, I believe. Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot that she was yeah.
I can confirm this. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, well, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago.
The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, right, be careful of what you're saying. Ah. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency.
I believe we have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period,
She and I would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect, enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary, until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Rai for her feelings of anger and resentment.
Poor Rai.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. The photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident.
Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image.
As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden.
The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who?
One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
Very well then, Counsel. Bring forth your witnesses.
I, Taketsuki Chiauchi, have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. The trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ah! Ryunosuke Naruhodo!
Oh my fuck, it looks wrong. No. I'm actually gonna change it. Because this is annoying. Where's save? I wanna save and quit. There we go. Bum, bum, bum. Ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. It still has Ryunosuke's silhouette on it. Ba-da-bum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
This insult to the Aochi family name will never be forgotten.
You've become conceited with age, Counsel, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that.
Ah! Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini-Meiji revolution? Are you modernizing as well, Counsel?
Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the ouchy growth! You see, the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown.
I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is the hope exactly?
I said silence! Today, I face another yokel student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. And my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You've been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand.
It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and the defense each has much to lose.
A haircut is hardly comparable to Rai's life.
Hey, Hosonaga is back again, and it's yes, sir.
Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court.
Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, so I can easily go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned about the capital. Throughout the capital, in fact. Yes. Soon to be sold out. The satirical I Am a Cat. A sensational success. Oh, Soseki Natsume. Oh my goodness. Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't. It's only natural you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki. Oh wait, he's not nervous anymore. He's in Japan, so he's not nervous. It's only natural you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here?
Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun.
Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I certainly could never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. I have something on my face. Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Oh, I suppose it's this disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly.
Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san?
Oh, well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture on the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yumai University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yumai University. After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the medical science department. Professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikotoba.
Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story about 2 former students who studied in Great Britain.
Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. Let's secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. He's got ink. He's got purple ink on his hand. He seems suspicious. As you can see, the conversation is written up in this newspaper here. Read it all at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. He practically threw the paper at me. So Soseki Natsume article has been added to the court record. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. That can't be Wagahai, right? Also, like, this rendition of Soseki is so weird. I don't blame the translation team for not wanting to localize this. I mean, it literally would feel so out of place. What is this, like, line? The camera is cracked. The camera is cracked. That's going to be important evidence. Because that dude, that journalist behind him is just taking photos of Soseki. So we're going to have him show us one of those, and it's going to have a crack in the same place. So there's a glass of spilt wine, a bottle of wine that's empty, her purse thing, she was in the middle of getting changed, her mask, the swan hat, a pen in her hand. Maybe that pen has the purple ink. Maybe it was the journalist. 3 more masks, another bottle of alcohol, and there's her dress. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words.
As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
The detective I'm at liberty to divulge was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Osonaga.
Thereby the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all those other members from the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I'm at peak physical fitness at the moment, so... he says while coughing. What's the joke with the coughing? It must be his name. I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, you... well, you do have something on your face now. Oh, how unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach too, Father?
No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off.
I didn't want to go.
But unfortunately, of course, it meant that, as my assistant, I was invited to take my place.
Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. Oh, but if only I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight. Relentlessly, racked by the remorse and regret. He licks his pencil.
Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast.
Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. So I'm not even paying attention. I ran to the beach at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, that girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the table. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Oh, blood on the blade. I can't read, dude.
Indeed, it does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. The very moment of this heinous crime.
What?
Now, if you recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it. Damning evidence.
What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it?
Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, she wrote the killer's name. Oh, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you had cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more...
Ah, goodness me! Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand.
That's right. The fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency.
Ah! The owner's initials have been engraved onto the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Membani. The initials of the defendant.
Ah, no!
This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence.
So, have I omitted anything? Oops. Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. I don't understand the prosecutor ouchie of 9 months ago. Has none of this man's poise.
Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san.
Naruhodo? That's... means... Oh, yes, me!
Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom?
Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom.
Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please.
Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer should handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Oh, wrong button. Can I do it now? No.
Hold it!
Hold it! In that jaunty disguise. Correct. Wait, no. I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those were my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer. Being able to blend in flawlessly with a crowd is an important part of a detective's job. I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. But there was no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there?
If that made you late arriving at the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong.
Perhaps I shouldn't pursue this line of questioning any further at the moment. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me.
Hold it!
Hold it! Hold it! Ah, you're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Soseki-san? In more literary terms,
You might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Yeah! Or the light. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors won't be want to describing things so.
Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England.
Anyway, I spun around at the noise and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze.
Yes, the beach hut. The area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always very quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure, erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun.
Although the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand.
Ah, I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you.
Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach run. Or, in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetled off hutwise. Decrabbed and beetled off hutwise. Wow.
Hold it! Wait, by parrot, you don't mean to say. How could that be? No, you misunderstand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant, Rai Membami-san. Oh, it would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. You jump to conclusions, you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes. Dear me, pinning your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish, very foolish. It really was an outside chance. I just wish I had realized that before I said something silly. So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court exactly how you found the aforementioned pair in the hut? Well, it was a sorry sight, a really grisly scene. I parted the northern curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped inside, only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim sprawled on the sand. How the hell are we gonna get out of this one? Both witnesses are saying they saw this, and that they saw her stabbing her. Okay, step one is gonna be able to... Okay, it's gonna be the fact that... Single stab wound, yeah, so Seki said multiple. My glass is very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes. How thoroughly appalling! Doesn't appear to be lying here. Well, so Seki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder?
You'd like a literary man's opinion? Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, and as she stabbed wildly. Hold it!
Stabbed wildly? You actually saw her do it?
Oh, indeed. The terrible spectre, the terrapin spectre, the bloody torrent, the author's torment. Eek! Every sight and every sound is still carved into my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least, as a future literary sensation.
Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream? Oh, no, ahem. What are you insinuating? I'm as manly a Japanese man as you. I wonder if I might interject here, Soseki-san. You said something you said is troubling me. That was my impression, were your words just now, I believe. Ah, so do you mean to say? You're not confident that you really did say that what you've said. But you're not confident that you really did see what you've described. No, I mean, yes, I mean, I know what I saw. My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream, hence my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial.
It sounds as though the next installment of I'm a Cat may take a macabre turn.
I think this is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become.
Oh dear, how awkward.
I wonder what all the art team were doing of this game. Literally every character in this room appeared in the first game.
Hold it!
Hold it! She was stabbed multiple times. How can you be sure of that?
Very simply, from the blood on the blade.
The blood?
When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air.
Yes, yes, that's right, I saw it too. Oh,
And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived on the scene.
yes, yes, that's right, I saw it too.
And the victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly.
Yes, yes, right, I saw it too.
Maybe a year in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese.
The logic of your argument is sound, at least.
Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out testimonies flawlessly.
Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. That's just my personal opinion, of course.
Counsel, you will refrain from mocking the witness.
Oh no, I just have so many thoughts whirling around in my head. It's all I can do to stand here wide-eyed and mute.
Goodness, my dear, you really must try to calm down.
But how am I supposed to find an inconsistency in what these two gentlemen are saying? I don't see why either of them would have had any reason to lie.
What you must remember, I think, is that... What you must remember, I think, is that witnesses may inadvertently lie at times. For various reasons, a misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion even.
Ah, a delusion.
What's important is that we determine the truth, and there's only one sure way to do that.
Yes, with evidence, of course.
Spoken like a true judicial assistant.
Yes, it's all about inconsistencies.
Once you've identified a witness statement that appears to conflict with a piece of evidence, present the evidence to the witness with R, and the way ahead will present itself to you, I'm sure.
Yes, alright then. I'll consider the details of all the evidence in the court record against each statement to find an inconsistency. I hope I'm up to the task.
Don't forget that you can have the witness repeat their statements as many times as you like. Everyone has to start at the beginning, remember, so that wide eyes are quite forgivable. And besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl.
You're right, I need to listen to the testimony again from the start.
Wait. they also reused the testimony theme. There's no new testimony theme. What? Where is this game's soundtrack? What the hell? Is it just like a low-budget sequel? I think Shutakumi did want to make it another trilogy, but surely, why should the sequel be such low budget that it has no new characters anywhere and no soundtrack for testimony? I don't know. I'm gonna do this objection, then I'm going to bed.
Objection!
Objection! With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. This is kind of like Susato's normal thing. Also, the polygons.
Oh, what's the meaning of that menacing pose, Council? I'd like the witness to clarify something for me.
Oh, what? Where? When? How?
Not you, Soseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. But me, in your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times.
Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon.
And yet, that cannot be.
What?
Get to the point, please, Counsel.
In the post-mortem report, it clearly states
She still does this pose though.
that the victim was stabbed only one time. In other words, Inspector Hosonaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Soseki-san,
Me?
you claim to have seen Membami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did. Wildly.
But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. That there was already blood on the knife you saw the defendant holding.
Yes, and?
It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing had already occurred. There is no way that there could have been blood on the knife if a single stabbing hadn't already occurred.
Oh, it's true.
And what exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us?
Yes, Your Excellency. There is only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body.
That can't be. He does Gregson's thing.
Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Objection! Well, well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in the trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection attempting to steal the show.
You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged that deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was at that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood, because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Ah! All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance. Ah!
I'm in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion.
But if she was withdrawing the blade, then we are back where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim, and with the demon's cold-blooded composure too? The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good. Why did Rai pull out the knife?
Ah, yes. Going for the jugular.
What does father mean by that?
Let the court hear your answer then, Counsel.
The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could... I think it was possibly so that she could hide the murder weapon. Objection! Objection! And yet the murder weapon was left there, thrust into the sand at the scene. Having pulled the knife from the victim, she couldn't find a place to hide it, so that was her only option, perhaps.
Shit. I think, Counsel, that you were ill-advised with your answer initially, and that you were further ill-advised to pursue it.
Oh dear, I'm terribly sorry. This job is not to be taken lightly.
I got confused. I thought it was the knife that had the initials on, not the pen, because there was so many knives with bloody initials on last game.
This job is not to be taken lightly. There's just so much pressure.
Just because you're under pressure doesn't mean you can't say the first thing that you can say this first thing that comes into your head.
I'd like to revise my answer, Your Excellency. The reason why the defendant pulled the blade. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant.
That's correct. I thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence clearly indicates her killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san was compelled to act when she faced the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life.
But she should have known that if you do that, it just hurts more.
Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem that this is the best we can expect of this young yokel.
Indeed.
Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel like much colder in here?
Your Excellency, if I may,
Speak, witness.
I would like another opportunity to testify in respect to the slipshod assertion put forward by the Yokel Defense Council, I mean.
Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Very well, Inspector. I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the Defense Counsel's assertion.
Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Alright, I'll leave it there. Or when we hit cross-examination.
Is what you said just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily?
Yes, think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed.
Oh, I see. Ha! This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so...
Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit.
Father, is it true what they're telling me?
Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Rai would have been well aware of it as well. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways.
But then, why would Rai have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett?
I don't know.
Rai never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but could my friend actually have...
Susato,
Yes.
pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here.
Ah,
Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination.
oh, yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I'll be moving to my adjudication immediately afterwards.
I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard.
Alright then. Alright, that's it then. That's it for the day. Oops. Oh my god, I just noticed something else that's really pissed me off as well. Well, this courtroom doesn't look exactly the same as the one in the first game. But look, the gallery looks like military people, which was only for the secret trial, no? Or is this trial secret as well? Or is every trial secret? I don't fucking know. I don't know, it just seems weird that they didn't even like... Okay, sure, it's fine. I don't know, I'm being picky. I'm hoping that... I don't know. I just find it weird that this first trial has no new characters so far, other than the bloody journalist. And only one piece of new music, pretty much, or two. I think, yeah, maybe Shutakumi's story is just gonna have to carry the whole game. But, or maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself. I guess we'll see soon enough in chapter 2. Maybe they just wanted to use the same characters just because, why not, right? They're familiar enough. Alright then. That's me done.